Alrighty, folks, welcome to our Tuesday live stream with Jack Spirko from the Survival Podcast, John Willis for Special Operations Equipment. I'm Nicole Sauce from Living Free in Tennessee. And this is our monthly talk about the buffoonery going on in the world. So if you'd like to ask us questions, do me a favor, put your questions in all caps, put the word questions, in all caps, and then you can not all caps it after that if that works for you. Also, be sure to let your friends know that we are live today. Let's start out with the topic we were already talking about, the pesticide-laden Berkey filter problem. What do you guys know about that?
So I don't know much about it. I sent links to all you guys yesterday, day before. I had caught a screenshot on YouTube, started looking at it, and basically the big question is, why does Berkey.com not have anything available for sale? So they finally came out and said the FDA sent them a all stop, no sale, and they want to classify the filters as a pesticide based on Berkey saying that the filters remove bacteria. There, Nicole has that. This does seem to be a real thing. It's not just something the company is saying. Past that, I don't know. They do still seem to be purchasable. There are other vendors that have them and such. So it's just kind of crazy, the FDA stuff. The government, the government, nothing can be made. Anything with the application of government can always be made worse for you. Very little is ever made better with any application of government.
Yeah, so the Environmental Protection Agency is apparently classifying Berkey water filters as a pesticide and wants to regulate them because I guess they claim that they filter out the bacteria in the water, and then of course that makes them a pesticide even if it's just a mechanical filtration. So that's what we've heard so far. I haven't dug. I literally found this amicus brief this morning. And there's a lot more digging to do. It's 50 pages of reading I have not done. Jack, have you read it?
I have not. I just heard about this yesterday from John on a text message, and I was having a really great holiday weekend cooking my ass off in the event, floating in the pool and drinking Yingling Light.
Were you using the salamander?
I just didn't. I just didn't look at any of this crap. I just, hearing this now. So wouldn't any water filtration device with sufficient micron porosity to filter out bacteria fall in the same category? That would be a logical human being's question. The answer, believe it or not, I know this from past research on other bullshit, is no. Only when the manufacturer points out the fact that it filters out the bacteria would it fall under it. For I remember reading some book on natural health. I mean, it was Andrew Watt, one of Dr. Weil's books. And he talked about how there was this company that made this bread and it was like fortified with certain shit and all. And they're like, it helps support the immune system or whatever. And so the FDA came into this bakery and said, all of this shit is medicine and it all has to be destroyed. Now, a lot of bread had the same shit in it, but the person making the bread, producing the bread, never pointed out the correlation between these nutrients and this particular immune boosting thing. So the owner of the bakery said, okay, we have to destroy all this. This is a huge hit for us. Can we just give this shit away to the homeless or something? No, they destroyed it all. And it's like the thing magically transforms in the mind of a bureaucrat when somebody makes a statement about it. Whether that statement's true or not doesn't mean shit to a bureaucrat. It's, can we fuck with this? Can we regulate this? And I did an episode about a year ago called Stop the Planet, I Want to Get Off. Now I really fucking feel that way. Like, this has gotten to a point where, like, Jack, why are you an anarchist? Oh, I don't fucking know. Now a piece of charcoal is a fucking pesticide.
Yeah. It's a pesticide. And, obviously the key motivator, I think, here, Jack, is not that it magically transforms.
Yeah.
It's that they could not figure out how to regulate it any other way. And the minute they found an excuse, it was like, I have something to do now. Yes. I can mess with somebody.
Well, see, it's the FDA, right? The bully can't have multiple fronts. They target one person at a time, and that one person doesn't have that voice. If they targeted a bunch of places, they wouldn't be able to bring all their guns to multiple places at the same time, and then they might get sunlight. They might get exposure on that, right? They just went after another Amish farmer. This is like the dozen of them now. They went after this dude. They shut him down, said, hey, you can't sell this stuff. He basically gave them the finger. continued to do that. They came in with Ryder trucks and seized all of his frozen meat out of his freezers and took it to the dump. They would not let him feed it to the dogs. They would not let him use it for his family. And it's an enforcement of feelings, right? You have a person who felt a little bit of power, came in and said, you're going to do this. And he said, no, I'm not going to do it. So they're going to punish you to the maximum amount that they can get away with. And of all the people, like, had he been just giving that meat away at the edge of the street, not a problem. You can process it. You can do whatever you're going to do with it for free. It's only when there's an exchange of money that they come in and get involved in that shit.
Yep. So somebody here says, I believe their water doesn't filter out what it says, so they won't have the water tested and certified. Well, I mean,
you can test it. You can buy a machine right now. Listen,
hold on. I'm tired of that bullshit. Whoever this person is, that fucking bullshit claim has been made over the California issue for as long as I've been podcasting. It's 15 fucking years. And you know what? I've never seen one of these fucking people that make this claim ever fucking do. Get fucking water, stick it through a fucking Berkey and send it off to be tested and come back with the largest goddamn whatever they call it, where you sue on behalf of the plaintiffs. You know, do you imagine the fucking lawsuit that an ambulance chasing lawyer would have if you could prove that there was one fucking thing that company said? Class action, that's what I'm looking for. The class action lawsuit would be up the ass of that company so hard. That's a bullshit claim. And if you're repeating it without looking at fucking results, quit fucking slandering a company, whoever the fuck you are, including if you're one of my friends.
Okay, so there's a YouTube video, there's a channel that came out probably 6 months ago saying this. I watch the videos. Every time I see this guy's videos, he's selling another brand of filter.
Fuck yeah, he is.
So I don't know whether he ever sent the stuff out. I never saw any of the statistics on it, any of the data. We've used a Berkey water filter here for probably 20 years. I've bought probably 30 of them and given them to friends as gifts. We have them. We have them, and every time they have them available, we use the black filters, and then we use the fluoride filters on the bottom of them. And I don't know. I've never tested the water either. It wouldn't be hard, I guess, to test and see if you're getting chlorine in your water, right? Check the levels and stuff, the bromine and chlorine and all the trash that they put in your water.
You just go tell me some Madison Avenue fucking law firm wouldn't have sued this company into oblivion. They have millions of customers around the world. California
wanted to comply with a bunch of their bullshit, and they said, we're not sending them into California.
Yeah, we just said, fuck California. And that was the genesis of this. And then all this shit started. And basically, California wanted them to spend tremendous amounts of money to redo testing that was already done where in the way that California wanted it done. And they just said, fuck California. And good for them.
You can get water tests done from any of your water department will probably do them.
Every person that sells a house with a fucking well, the water gets tested as part of the pre-purchase inspection to make sure somebody's not buying a fucking house with contaminated water. This is bullshit.
Scully gets his well tested, and it pops up for, I don't remember what was in there. Something because of cows, right?
Yeah.
And the guy just drops a pack of chlorine down there, and Jeff's like, that's what he goes, yeah, you can drop a bottle of bleach too. He goes, you should probably, E. coli is what was in there. He said you should probably,
Giardia.
Yeah, you should probably do it once a year, he said, and just, get it tested if you want to get it tested, or to be safe, just dump the bottle of bleach in there.
So 16 years ago when I moved to the Holler, I was buying water that was filtered from the store because we did not get a water test as part of it, and it took me a while to figure out how to get a water test of the kind I wanted, because I wanted not only the standard water test, which is like pH and what's in your water, and they'll look for some pesticides and they look for critters that are alive like E. coli and Giardia. I wanted heavy metals, because heavy metals will mess you up if you consume them over your life. And so I called the county extension here in Tennessee, and they're like, wow, nobody's ever asked that before. It's going to cost you like $300, lady. I'm like, yep, $300, totally worth not getting heavy metal poisoning over my lifetime. And
especially with the power plant you have near.
Yes, exactly. So then I ended up taking it to Tennessee Tech University, where they had a lab, and the extension office is who connected me with who to do the test with. And weird conversations with them too, paid for the test, didn't have, there's always heavy metals somewhere in very small amounts, but nothing crazy. and it turned out I had Giardia and E. coli in my water, and there were horses uphill for me, so that makes sense. And I did a bunch of research on filtration and came to Berkey water filters because I could do two things. I could spend a bunch of money putting in a whole house filtration system in with like an irradiator and all of that, or the infrared filter. Somebody was talking about that earlier. Or like the budget solution was spend a few $100 on a Berkey water filter system. And then over time, I started hearing all of the scuttlebutt about the filters. And when I dug into it, a lot of it was centered around, like, Berkey has a statement about this: buy our filters from us. Don't buy the cheap ones on Amazon that are fake branded with our name. There was a whole another set of suppliers doing fake Berkey filters and selling them as Berkey filters. And so if you got your Berkey filters for $20, it's probably one of those. And those didn't do as good a job as the actual Berkey certified water filters. So I went down that rabbit hole, but I've been drinking my water for 16 years now and have not had E. coli poisoning one time. They also only claim it's 99.9% effective. So is that a pesticide or not? No. I mean, it's obviously not a pesticide. But when you have your own water system, it's up to you to keep yourself safe. And if you're depending on city water, like how many times have I gotten a letter off my rental property here about water quality problems? About 4 times since they put it in the last 5 years.
You never know there's a boil advisory until it's too late. The reason they issue the boil advisory is because people started getting sick in the area, and they were like, oh shit. When the cities here open up the mainline pipes and have to work on them, you're going to see some residue come down line if you're close to where that breach was. And what they do is they go, literally, I've been there when they bought it. They walk into the pool supply place and they buy these packages of pool shock. And the pool shock you want, it's not dyed, it doesn't have anything in it, and it comes in this rubbery type material. You can store it, but it eventually eats its way out of everything. And they literally open this package up. It's like a 1-pound package, and they dump the powder down inside there, and that's how they shock that system. You ever notice some mornings you get in the shower if you're on city water and your whole bathroom smells like a public swimming pool? That's because the system has been shocked. That's what that is when they dose that.
Now, I don't trust that, though. I'm going to tell you why I don't trust that. Because when you're pulling water up out of a well, you're basically in an underground lake.
Correct.
Right? So that water not only is enormous in size and scope, but it literally moves. It has circulation within it. So if I take a pound of chlorine and I put it in my pool, it's a 25,000 gallon pool. Yeah, it'll shock the shit out of everything. If I dump it in a million acre lake, right, or 1,000 acre lake, it doesn't do jack shit except right where I put it in, and for only so long. So I don't trust shocking wells for that purpose at all.
So what this is when the pipe. This is when
basically how you fuck. Oh, are you saying it's like not going into the reservoir? Like it's coming through this or something?
Correct. When they have a breach, right? A guy hits it with his backhoe.
Oh, okay.
And they come out and repair it. They put that in that system where the repair is okay. the way we know Chester, Don's brother works. He's the water department dude over here. So we can walk into our water department at any time and look at the facilities and be like, hey, do you use fluoride? No, we haven't used fluoride for 30 years. What are we using for chemicals? This is what we're using.
Okay, I got you. But what I'm talking about is what you were saying earlier about, like, if your well tests bad, you can shock your well. I don't trust that. I don't trust that because just math. Right?
Well, I would still filter anything that I'm drinking. Yeah. I would still, having a well, I would still run it. I mean, even
how you pass an inspection before you sell your house to the next sucker. That's what that is. I mean, that's why like what we did in Pennsylvania, we had this problem when we tested our water. We had it tested fine when we moved in because they did exactly that. They shocked it, and then 60 days later, I had it tested, and it tested. I think I can't remember something from cows, like you were saying, and I got one of the UVs because that is 100% all the time, and I don't buy that you can dump a pound of chlorine down a well and do anything that's going to last for months, let alone years or even a year. I just don't
even Tag running on his whole system off wells and reservoirs, he still has a big reverse osmosis system in there. Mm-hmm. I think you'd be silly not to. I think it's so you might pay a couple $1,000 to put it in, but that's going to be a lifetime investment. You're going to change your filters out. every now and then, your different membranes and such. But I mean, why would you not just filter it? I mean, it's so simple. Everything that anybody in this building consumes, we put 6 gallons at a time in that Berkey filter. Yeah. And even once the bottom reservoir is full, we come back and dump. So the rule is anytime somebody takes water out, you put a whole pitcher in.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a thing, give before you take. If you're taking water, you need to put the amount you're going to take at least in the top before you take it out of the bottom.
Yep.
Yeah, not everybody does that in an environment like John's.
And when you look at when you go look out on like Amazon for Berkey filters or Berkey systems, you'll find what's called a water wick also. And apparently the older Berkeys used to be these. They're like the ceramic filters that are in the Katadyn filters. You've got Katadyn, you've got MSR, you've got a ton of different companies making backpack filters. You can use the same type of filter in a big stationary filter. Like the MSRs were a charcoal filter, and then they had a secondary piece you could put on there that was iodine. But even the charcoal was impregnated. They had soaked it in iodine. So that would also kill viruses that would come through. But then it would also remove chemicals.
Yep. Okay, I got some questions here. Do any of you all know if ivermectin degrades past the expiration date? I don't.
I do
all
not.
Medications decline in efficacy across time. The Army did a huge study about 15 years ago. Doc Bones from my expert council dug into it. Nothing goes bad. Nothing becomes toxic. Nothing becomes harmful. What ends up happening is the efficacy declines past the expiration date. But they tested stuff that was 10, 12 years past the date, and it was all still perfectly fine. And maybe some of it, like, if you were taking 300 milligrams of something, you would need to take 400 to get the equivalent effect. So there's no reason to discard it, get rid of it, whatever. But, there is a life expectancy to anything's effective life.
You guys can still buy that ivermectin at Walmart in the pet section. It's still there. I saw it at Sunday. I saw it at Tractor Supply, and I know that 2 weeks ago it was at our Walmart in the pet section. Still, it's still coming in. It's still available, and there's a ton of stuff going around saying that it kills parasites, and that a lot of the ailments that people have that they go get massive lifetime treatments for is actually a lot of it stems from parasites. And when they use those type of drugs, that it's actually wiping out shit that they want to put you on a 6-month regimen to cure and pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for the treatment. Same thing if you look at like apricot seeds, the claims of what apricot seeds wipe out and what ailments come from that. They've got dudes in prison right now for making those claims. So I'm of the belief that if the FDA has some product on the market and they want to ban it or regulate it, you should probably really focus on that, look at that, see what it does, and then buy a bunch of it before they ban it.
Yeah, they claim everything that's good for you is bad for you. That's where I'm at today.
I believe that.
Saying that because when I started, I was like the anti-conspiracy theorist 15 years ago. When I'm like, I believe in some of it, but not all of it, and like, I believe I was right then, but if I had maintained that position to today, I would be wrong because it's become the thing. Like the conspiracy theorists weren't right. They were made right by actions of our government. Right now, like one of my big hits I took this weekend, one of my favorite artists of all time, Jimmy Buffett, passed away. Turned out he had skin cancer. And of course, they put out an article. He lived his whole life in the sun. And like, I'll tell you, I flat out believe that freaking, especially some of the sunscreens actually are a cause of major amounts of skin cancer. We have people saying it's the sun, and then you end up with people with freaking skin cancer on the bottom of their feet, like they're upside down with their feet in the air or something. So I'm not saying that sun exposure can't have some detrimental effect, but probably overall for most people, vitamin D trumps the risk of this, or what have you. And I just think it's like every single thing that benefits you, they say is bad for you. A high meat, high fat diet of all natural foods and foods that are one ingredient foods. Best thing you can eat. No, eat this impossible to believe burger bullshit, right? That's much better for the planet and the earth. And every place you go with this, it's the same shit over and over again. And if you can't tell, I'm in a point in my mood right now where they can all go get screwed. I think we all need to we need to have more Americans and more people in the world, period, reached the point of fuck you. Like whatever you say, you are irrelevant to me. I am beyond able to describe my feelings in that the majority of people in the world today still care what the media says and what the government says. And it's the vast majority. People like us are an extremely small minority. We feel like we're bigger than we are because we all hang out together and we all talk to each other, right? And there's like a few million people in America, like, wow, it's a lot of us. But it's 1% of people, which means 99% of people are freaking Bonhoeffer's theory of stupidity in action today. They believe everything, and if they don't believe everything they're told, they believe what CNN says or they believe what Fox News says, right? They pick a side and they believe in it, and then they assign value and relevance to bureaucrats in our government, unelected assholes who don't do the square root of fuck all to help anybody except their own paychecks. And I just don't get how people can look at this vehement scum, that's the only word I have for it, at this point and give them any credibility whatsoever. And use them as proof points. Like, look, this government guy said this. I don't give a shit. And why do you?
What he said.
I've been thinking about something because the Gen X wars on TikTok are actually cracking me up a lot. Every time
the chicken wars. Holy shit. The
chicken wars are hilarious. But we have people who think it's okay today to behave like Gen X sarcasm. So the question I've been wondering is because we admire somebody who gets a really good zinger in, right? Because it's hilarious. And we've learned to take zingers growing up because, it's just a zinger. Like, it's just the point of it's how we communicate. But now we have people who think that's how you behave, and they start acting out physically in response to people and becoming actually emotionally outraged. So it's like they didn't learn the filter of, no, it's just a zinger. Like, you should be admiring the fact they just punched you in the nose verbally too, because it's hilarious. So I wonder if this is of our own making, Jack. That's what I've been thinking about lately.
I don't know what you mean, honestly.
I'm
not really tracking what you're.
No. So just like people who look at things going on and start Karening out and getting up in people's faces. We've got women who are on film putting themselves in front of cars because somebody parked there. And it's like, it's okay to attack somebody because they park somewhere.
There's a comedian named Bill Burr that one time said the reason women do shit like that is because nobody punches them in the head. That's why I think you have, like, when you watch these videos that like people losing their shit at restaurants and stuff and throwing shit, 9 times out of 10 or more, it's a woman. Because if a guy acts like that, and like a guy like John or I are around, he's getting his ass kicked and put through the window, right?
Women doing that get a lot of men killed over that.
Yeah.
Because it's not her that's gonna
insulated, because you don't just walk up to a woman and drop her, right? Like, and I'm not saying we should. I'm just saying that's a consequence here. You look up irate people flipping their shit, throwing stuff, whatever. Now, I'm not talking smash and grab. I'm talking about the Karening out, like Nicole saying. There's one guy for every freaking 20 women. And then he's in Berkeley, California or something like that. He's not in like Austin or like freaking Nashville or something where somebody's going to drop kick the guy. It's a weird thing. I see it all the time. I guess that's what you're talking about, because I don't think Gen X caught this because we're sarcastic. Like, we don't give a fuck, but that's different from giving somebody behaving that way. Like, I've never thought of our generation being that way.
Well, but we enabled the generation that's that way, if you think about it. Like, we produced them and raised them and empowered them.
Give you, but sarcasm, I can't blame sarcasm for it.
You can't blame
sarcasm failures.
I don't know.
I don't know. All my kids all work. My kids all have a job. My kids are all buying homes. I don't see my kids doing stupid shit that I would be embarrassed to have out on the internet. That's not to say it doesn't happen, but all my kids are in relationships. My kids are having children. So I think we did okay.
I also wonder how much of this shit's real, right? Like, the stuff that's in public, I'll give it a pass and say, like, the person flipping out at Waffle House or whatever, that's real. But a lot of this stuff, the way these people are acting, it seems like it's all about attracting attention. Yes. Right? It's all like attention whorism, right? Like, you see this stuff and you go, like, they present it as though somebody just happened to be there and get this video of a guy twirling his girlfriend or some shit, as though it wasn't a setup, right? And you're like, so what'd you do? You went over to the person and said, oh, you randomly videoed me, send it to me with perfect lighting. And like, there's so much of this that I think we see if we look at like the TikToks and all this short form shit. It's all crap. It's not real. It's not really. These people like, and it, this the trend right now is what? People with their face in their hands and I don't know how to survive. And it's attention-seeking behavior, I think, more than anything else.
It's the misgendering shit. I saw one the other day where she was well, I think she was he. She looked like a pretty good-looking girl. I mean, that one had some work done, I guess, and was just losing their shit over that. It is, because if they didn't get the butt rub and the thumbs up and the, oh, poor you, they wouldn't be doing it. They don't get, it's a reward that they're doing. They don't go through their whole life just doing that. It's the same thing when the lady runs over that's wearing the mask, screaming about how you're endangering her life. She's looking around to see if the mob's with her. If the mob's not there, that shit fizzles out.
I think a lot of them Karen videos are just totally fake.
Well,
too.
I would say on TikTok, they are acted out, but I also interact with the university system. So I'm seeing, I think I'm seeing some things that you might not see.
Yeah. I'm just like, there's one dude that does like his whole thing is Karen's, and he's the voice in every freaking video. Yeah. And I'm like, nobody encounters 12 Karens a day. Right.
The college system is a make-believe system. That ecosystem can only exist within that ecosystem, right? You got people putting their hands in concrete and protesting. I fucking guarantee you they're not going to protest on that Indian reservation out at Burning Man again. I fucking guarantee nobody's going to put a roadblock out there again. That's not going to happen, right? That shit happens. Let them remove themselves from the gene pool. Let them go protest and stop traffic. As soon as they say, okay, if you're in the freeway and you get hit, we were not going to prosecute. Those people will get the fuck off the freeway. That shit only happens because it's allowed to.
I personally feel, for a variety of reasons, but specifically this roadblock reason, every person listening to us should go out and get like a mega can of pepper spray. Like the ones the bounty hunters carry.
The bear spray.
But now they get human ones so you don't get sued, right? But the big tub of it, right? And think back to the Wall Street thing, Occupy Wall Street, and this was an inappropriate use, in my opinion, but we can learn from law enforcement. So I think it was in Salt Lake City or something. There was some park, and they did a sit-in, and they had been there for weeks, and finally the cops were given the order, clear this shit out of here. And the guy just walks down the whole line. You remember this video, John? Yeah. And it looks like he's got spray paint, and he just like, I think you block a highway, I get out, I get back in the car and wait. If you've ever been hit with it, have you ever been hit with it, John?
Yes.
Yeah, you can even fight it for a little bit, but it's over. You're done.
Yeah. There's a video of a dude with looks like a baseball bat or a club or something, and a storekeeper. And he comes in and he's going to hit the storekeeper, and he pepper sprays him in the face. Yeah. And he goes down for a minute, comes back, he's going to hit him. He ends up spraying him 3-4 times before the guy finally just couldn't do anything more. Yeah. Your mucus is just so thick that you just can't. There's nothing you can really do with it at that point.
And it builds, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. Yeah. And you can't see it, and your eyes involuntarily close. You start freaking bleeding out of your nose and shit. And I mean, I've heard people say, I knew this guy that was a Navy SEAL, and he put it on his food, on his MREs. You can do a stunt. It is pepper spray. You can do that. There's a difference between eating something and having it on your face. Who hasn't cut a jalapeno and forgot and done just that? There's a big difference in your mucous membranes, your eyes, and your face to eating something. I have yet to see a person who is functional after being hit heavily with pepper spray.
And this is where I bring in the homesteader perspective. Learn from what Jack just said. And if you are going to dehydrate your jalapeno peppers, put that stuff outside.
Not only that.
See how I know.
Oh,
the whole house was pepper spray when I did it inside that one year.
I did it in an extra bedroom, and it only slightly wafted through the house. But when I walked in the room, I thought I was going to die. And I never did it again. No, you're right. Don't. And that was jalapenos.
And wear gloves when you're processing them. You can process them in the morning, and hours later still gets exposed. And also pepper spray in a hot vehicle. So I had a little can of pepper spray in my Ford, and it blew up all over the front dash. We come back from mountain bike.
No!
Now it didn't give me the effect. It had been I think the heat kind of neutralized it some. Yeah. But the red dye was all over the dash. But I did spend 6 months for 6 months. Yeah. You would eventually get a little bit of it in your nose or in your eyes 6 months later for the whole time. But it didn't have the full effect of being pepper sprayed. I was able to drive home, but you knew it was there.
Little tip on the pepper spray stuff too from my brother-in-law who's a cop. He said they make a gel and they make a liquid. You want the liquid because occasionally, like you hit somebody with the gel and they'll literally grab it and throw it back at you.
The foam, and it's got a dye in it too, so the target's going to be dyed.
Stick to the pure liquid because it hits and you're fucked. You can't get it off and you can't hurl it back at somebody. But every time I see that now, I'm just like one $12 can of pepper spray, and this road would be open. Like just and then just get back in the car and wait. I promise you, they are going to be sobbing and wreathing and getting the hell out of the way. And then you're not punching somebody or kicking somebody or whatever, and you can always come up with a reason. I had to get to the doctor. I was having chest pains. They were threatening my life, so I sprayed them. Give me a fine if you want to. Fuck it, right? You're not going to prison for that.
You can set vehicles up where they will deploy that also. A lot of your armored vehicles, your limos and such, they have that. They also have OC drops. They have smoke drops, the caltrop boxes that have a flapper valve. If you look on YouTube, you'll see all of that.
Did you see the dude like a couple of weeks ago? They had one of this, they're all sitting on the road. So dude just turns his car around, puts it in reverse, and backs right up so his exhaust pipe is just blowing exhaust into the back of the heads of these people. And they had then they look outraged. Like, how dare you do this to me? How dare you? But I'm all for running them over, but I wouldn't legally advise anybody to do that. And by the way, nothing I say is legal advice. Check it with your attorney.
Or investment advice.
Yeah, or investment advice. But buy Bitcoin.
And now for something completely different from Charles. What methods do each of you use to keep your data around crops, animals, rain? What methods or apps would you recommend? I think this is just like, how do you track your farm stuff?
That's my biggest lack is I always intend to, and I never I just bought a bunch of trees from Lowe's and Tractor Supply. 1 year warranty, right? If your tree dies within a year, you take it back. But I'm terrible at cataloging what came from where. I don't know that they'll be able to tell, but I always mean to do it. I just don't do it. If I don't do it immediately, it doesn't ever get done.
I don't catalog anything. When I started trying to design this property, I recorded where every tree went and things like that. I did proper design and everything. And after being here 10 years on this rock shoal, and like 80% of what I put out there dies and is going to die, it is what it is. It's throw it and see what sticks. We did inventory, like when we used to have like a commercial egg business, we were pretty big on like how much feed's going in. We were running a spreadsheet, how many eggs come out, when's our low season. Now we just sell surplus eggs for $12 a dozen and the hell with it. I'm not that guy.
They have aluminum tags, and you put them like on a sheet of paper and you write on them with a ballpoint pen. Yeah. And it creases the aluminum. That's the best thing for putting on trees because the tags on trees that you write on, they always degrade. But these aluminum tags, it's actually pressed in the aluminum. So my best bet is just to number my trees. Yeah. And then I just have a journal. Like I write in a silver Sharpie on my raised beds, the metal raised beds. And then I kind of have in there what bed and which soil when I was testing the different types of soil. And we bought super expensive like Fox Farm soil, and I bought Miracle Grow soil. The Miracle Grow outperformed everything we bought that even cost 10 times more. The Miracle Grow, it grew better the first year.
Yeah, I use those tags on my trees, and I write their actual name on the tag. And then this year, so I just put in a bunch of trees. Last year, 3 of the tags blew across the yard. So now it's an I don't know for 3 trees, which is fine. Like I can tell what kind of fruit it is by looking at the tree.
that. So.
But I have just started a new method because I've always sort of just written stuff in a journal, and then I have business finances that I put in the Uber spreadsheet. I have a dedicated homestead spreadsheet now for all expenditures related to the homestead and income, coded by or categorized by animal, or if it, like by crop, so that I can better assess if the investment in the rabbit feed, for example, is paying off. And that's something that, in order for me to get that done accurately, every time I come back from errands or Tactical comes back from errands, there has to be a sit down and enter it in the spreadsheet situation, or else it will not get entered. If it gets put off, it will, like John, it will not get entered. And I'm doing that for a specific period of time to verify that the sort of back of napkin finances I was tracking by animal are accurate to reality.
Now, what I would do if I were you personally, with like your orchard you put in with all those trees, I would just make a diagram and put on the diagram what everything is, laminate that sucker, hole punch it, and leave it in one of your sheds. I mean, if you want to like know this is an Alberta peach or whatever, that would be the easiest thing to do. And then when something dies, you just save the file and change the print and put something new in there.
Yeah, I had one die that I could go get it replaced, and I'm ripping it out and putting a peach tree that came from my neighbor's 50-year-old peach tree. And I'm like, well, that one will probably live. So
I had a fantasy that when I built this place out, that I would have like each section like a diagram like that and all. And now the thing is, with my memory, I can walk around and go, so that dead tree was an all red plum. That dead tree was a Cohiba pear. That dead tree was a LSU purple fig. That dead tree was a mulberry. Like, I could tell you all my dead trees, what they used to be.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. This is back to water filters. Same dude claimed the filters lets more contaminants through than the old filters.
It's possible. I mean, when you if we're talking about Berkeys, right? You had a huge infusion of people trying to buy Berkeys, just like greenhouses during COVID, just like everything. It just wasn't there because people all of a sudden thought, well, I should probably get this thing. If you look at, I think we can all agree Harvest Right. Harvest Right had a 2-year period where there was all kinds of problems with a Harvest Right. I had a Harvest Right, works absolutely perfect, never a problem. And I would see people in these groups pissing and moaning about it. And I said, yeah, maybe, whatever. And then my friend Bob Lester said, hey, there's actually something to this. And we know Bob. Bob's pretty good with all his shit. Everything works. And he bought 3 of these things, and not a one of them worked. And he sent them back, and it took forever to get them back. And it came out, well, we had this huge elevation in sales, and we had to source parts from other places.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's always possible. And it happened to everything during COVID. It's like, if you tried to buy a Peloton bike or one of the competitors in the middle of COVID, you waited 8 weeks to get a freaking stationary bike.
Yep.
Right? Like, and if you want a Peloton right now, I promise you can order one, and by the end of the week, it'll be sitting in your front yard. Right?
We had a lady drive here from Ohio to pick up one of my recumbent bikes, and we had a lady drive here, I think from New York, to pick up one of my other. I had all this commercial cardio equipment. I had duplicates, so I had bought some new equipment, and I was selling these off, and they came from far away to get these things.
Yeah. I've gotten to the point now with the whole delay thing and the COVID stuff that when I reach out for customer service to anybody, and the automatic reply or phone message or whatever based on how I reach out to them is due to the COVID-19 pandemic, wait times are longer. I'm like, it's time for you to put your big girl pants on.
Yeah.
And admit that you're just not responding to things anymore as quickly. Like, instead of saying why and using that excuse, tell me that wait times are going to be 2 days to get your phone fixed or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'll go on with my life and I'll be pissed off about it. But I'm more pissed off if you're like, due to the pandemic.
Yeah. Due to the pandemic.
I don't care why.
I wonder how much of that's template driven, template emails, websites that were never updated and shit like that. Just nobody took it down. Because I remember about a year ago, and everything was gone here. And I was in Arkansas, but Arkansas had pretty much, it was Arkansas, Louisiana. I don't remember which one. I was coming back from a road trip. And There's no restrictions, no nothing. And there's this sign in the front of the hotel that Dorothy and I stayed at, like a nice easel, sign about social distancing and everything. And I said to the guy when I'm checking out, I'm like, why do you still have that? He goes, I don't know. No one will throw it away. And I'm like, really? He goes, yeah. I'm like, aren't you the manager here? He goes, yeah. I'm like, why don't you throw it away? I don't know. So when I walked out, I took it with me and pitched it in a freaking dumpster. Like, there's shit like that left over. There was like the other hotel we were in on that trip. There was like this faded ass wrinkled piece of paper taped to the inside of the business center. Where like you use the computer or whatever that nobody actually uses. And it's like, it's faded and there's just so much of that still left around. But I'm with you on the excuse making when I see that. I'm like, no, that's not why. That held water in July 2020. It does not hold water in September 2023. It does not.
Yeah. And sure, I understand you haven't been able to hire people because salaries are not keeping up with inflation and people are not working. And when you get people in, they're not that great very often. But it is hard to find a good employee who sticks around and can handle stuff. Fine. But that's your problem, not my problem. I have that same problem in my business. Okay.
True Texan's asking about a plant that I used to talk about to cure gum disease. I don't remember anything about that. That might be somebody else said that.
There's an herbal remedy that is like the dental fix-all plant that if you chew it, they say it will fix everything. And I don't remember what it's called either, but I have heard about it.
Supposedly eggshells and comfrey will repair teeth, but I don't believe it. I think that's just some bullshit.
Look at medical grade hydrogen peroxide. Just look up gum disease and hydrogen peroxide on YouTube and just chase that down on your own. It's a hydrogen peroxide you get at the store is not the same. It's a 40%, and you're going to mix it up with a pure. What's the water? The super clean water where they boil it and it comes over.
Distilled.
You're going to mix it with distilled water. Check it out yourself, and then decide if that's what you need to be doing.
Yeah, and they say you chew it. I think if you Google all those things, you will find it, but I can't remember what it's called. Like a friend of mine grew it and was going to give me one, but I don't know. Never happened. Somebody says horsetail. Isn't horsetail permanent? No, I'm thinking of something else. Okay. If I use sunflowers to remove heavy metals from my soil, will the seeds contain those metals, or does it settle elsewhere in the plant? Should I avoid roasting and eating them this year? The thing I've heard to use to get rid of heavy metals in soil are root crops like carrots, and then you use the carrots as toxic, like you treat it like toxic waste. That's what they do at Superfund sites, or what they used to do at Superfund sites, because I had a friend who used to oversee cleaning those up. I don't know about sunflowers. Anybody else?
Sunflowers are a remediation crop. Any remediation crop, though, I would dispose of. The question now is, well, where and how?
I heard it's hemp is what they're using, I thought.
Hemp is another. There are a lot of remediation crops. Hemp is one. Sunflower is one. Anything in the Halantheus, which is a sunflower family, so like Mexican sunflower, Jerusalem artichoke, all that stuff is great for remediation. There's funguses that are used for remediation, etc. Biochar is probably the number one thing you can use for remediation because it adsorbs, not absorbs. So it basically forms an electromagnetic bond is one way to think about it, even though it's not really what it is. And so if you use biochar for remediation, it locks it up. And since the plant doesn't want cadmium or whatever, like this is the thing, like people think like there's cadmium in soil, plants are going to be heavily infused with cadmium. Not really, because the plant doesn't really want cadmium. But if the soil is acidic enough, the plant can, in a sense, be forced to drink the cadmium. So if we can bond it up in a way that requires an exchange to get at it, the plant won't make the exchange for something the plant doesn't need or want, if that makes sense. All credit to Jeff Lawton.
Jeff Lawton's a smart dude. Okay, so this is toothache plant that Faith put in the comments, and it is Spilanthes acmella. I don't know. Anyway, so I think that's for toothaches, but I don't know that it cures gum disease. So you can check it out. And dermatitis, so maybe check it out. Don't know. Grows in Tennessee. I do know that. So, okay, next question. We've got, it's a comment about antibiotics. Exception. Cyclines like tetracycline can become toxic post-expiration date. So
I didn't hear all. I didn't think that was all. I don't think that's all psyllins. That's tetracycline, because I don't think penicillin becomes toxic. Tetracycline does become toxic at a certain point.
So Doc Bones has a book you can buy
Yep.
that goes through by antibiotic and other medications, what to do, how long it lasts, how to store it. And I would recommend, what is it? Doom and Bloom, like bloomflower.net or .com.
Yep. We bring them in 100 at a time. We usually sell out of them within 2 days every time we bring them in.
Yeah.
The book you want, I think it's called Alton's Antibiotics or something to that. Yeah. It is right here. Give me a second. And then I am going to have to run because I'm going to be right back. But I just realized that I did not bring my power adapter in. And if you want me to stick around,
I'm melting.
I need power. There you go. That's the book you want from Joe.
Alton's Antibiotics and Infectious Disease. You can get it on Amazon. You can also buy it probably directly from his website. So I always try to buy from the website when I can.
He will make more money buying from the website.
Right. That's why I try to do that anytime that's an option. If the website takes you back to Amazon, then he's made a decision not to mess with it. But I know he gets books in and ships them out with the medical kits. So anyway. So here's another one on the roadblocks. I'm a truck driver, so if roadblocks happen, I'm definitely dropping a gear and disappearing. Yeah, I would hate to be stuck somewhere behind a roadblock. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not
staying. I try not to go places where I think they're going to happen.
I'm not staying in a riot. If you guys are running any kind of map program, Waze or Google Maps or any of that, it's going to show you. It shows you where the cops are. It even asks you if the speed trap is still there. It will show you if they're having riots. It shows you all that shit because people report it on there. So if you're in an area and you're expecting that as a possibility, just run some kind of map program and don't go where the riot's going to be. Also, most people in a self-defense, I'm not giving you any advice, but people get in trouble because they themselves say something about it.
Yeah. And it is better to not be there than to stand up for what's right in your head. Like, if somebody calls you a poopy head, that's not going to kill you. And you can just be like, yep, I'm a poopy head. I'm going to stop this conversation now.
Remember Mr. Miyagi and Karate Kid? Best block is no be there. Best block is no be there. That applies to more than just a fist fight.
Yeah.
Right. The best way to
what's up?
Riot, don't be where the riot is, you know. People are on the whole thing. Was January 6th the setup, for instance? Well, since a week before that, when I first came back from the holiday, I said, if you go anywhere near D.C. on that day, you are an idiot and you're going to end up in the middle of a pile of shit. If I knew that far in advance, well, probably, right? Like, don't be in the places that bad shit happens.
Yeah.
Billy, what's going on, man?
Billy's in the live feed. Welcome to the live feed. Having just gotten out of a tactical response class again, there's always the conversation about don't do stupid things in stupid places with stupid people. And that includes going to the bar, which seemed something normal to me, and having a beer when I was younger and being there at 2 a.m, because that's when people do really stupid things. And it's an interesting way to start evaluating your life if you're not evaluating your life that way. And I mean, we talked about this last week, the whole parking lot issue. Like, if I walk out and there's somebody in the car next to the driver's side of my door, whether or not I think they're sketchy, I'm not eager to put myself between them and my car. This is like stupid little things like that can really save your life. I saw a video yesterday and they're like, tell me the moment that you feel like in your gut that this is the wrong situation. And it was well before any problems started. And, somebody else went into exhaustive comment after that about a situation where they were in where they just kept thinking, man, this isn't right. Man, this isn't right. And they kept moving forward. You do not need to be polite to people you do not know. You do not. And if your gut's screaming GTFO, then GTFO. It's like the worst thing that happens is you didn't go there and nothing happened. And you feel like you're stupid. I'd rather feel stupid than feel dead.
Yeah. I can kind of speak to that a little bit because for a few years when I first came here to Texas, I actually had a job where you throw people out of bars. And this was a real redneck bar back when Louisville wasn't really part of Dallas-Fort Worth. It was kind of out in the sticks. And we had to put rednecks out of that place with big dudes, way bigger than many of us. And we almost never actually had a problem. And it was because we paid attention to what was going on and we stopped the problem before it became a problem. And when you do that, you realize how many people do not, right? You see something going on between two people and you're like, the one guy is begging for this to turn into a conflict and the other guy doesn't even know it yet. You know what I'm saying? Where like, you can tell this guy, I don't know, his wife served him with divorce papers that day. He did a few extra roids at the gym. He had a bad day at work. He cussed his boss out. And now this guy has become the focus of his anger. He's trying to provoke something. And we would, get in on that. And we would kind of like that. The dude that was the target, we would even move him away. And he'd be like, I didn't do anything. No one said you did anything, man. Nobody said you did anything. You're not in any trouble. You're not being asked to leave. Could you just come over here and talk to me for a minute type of thing. And then you can deal with the other person in the absence of that first person. And then you realize like nobody around that saw anything was about to go down. And this dude that's like 6'4" and has no neck was about to rip this other dude in half. And it turned out when you talked to him and said, hey, you know what? Let's buy you a beer, whatever, and chill out. Like everything went away. But most people do not pay attention to shit like that. They just don't. They have no idea. And then, except today, I guess today it would be this, right? Everybody wants to video it when it happens.
You just hit a pet peeve. I'm gonna keep myself close to where fists are flying and a knife might come out with my phone just so I can get it with my phone.
Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong?
I just saw a video on TikTok. These cops like run up on this dude's car, point guns at him and jerk him out, throw him on his hood and arrest him. And the chick is sitting in a car in the other lane. And there was a car in front of her at first where she maybe couldn't have got out, right? But she videos the entire thing and the caption is, I was terrified. Really? If you were fucking terrified, why didn't you leave? Because you weren't terrified and you're like, ooh, look what I'm going to get on my channel. Like I'm sure you've seen memes where like fucking World War III's happening or meteors are coming in and shit. And like all the people are videoing. Like that's the freaking dystopian bullshit we live in today. If you're terrified, leave. Get the fuck out.
Yeah, it's an interesting time we live in right now in that regard. But
yeah, people are terrified of a cold, but they're going to stand adjacent to a fire or an explosion. Or like, it doesn't make, like, you realize how mentally freaking warped humanity has become. That people do that, and then they don't see in themselves any inconsistency, right? They're worried about grandma in Washington State when I'm fishing without a mask in Texas. But they're videoing a dude getting shot.
Yeah. I don't want to be anywhere near bullets.
Maybe we shouldn't have done this after a long weekend.
No, I mean, well, then I'm totally in the tactical response headspace today. So
I'm unusually off the top rope today. I don't mean to be.
I mean, you're more fun when you're that way anyway, right?
Okay. All right. As long as everybody likes it.
Yeah, they want to see the train wreck. They don't want to leave. It's like the Jerry Springer syndrome.
Yeah. I remember watching a documentary on that. They said everything changed when they unbolted the chairs from the floor.
It's all about those chairs flying.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Jack, let's change the subject and talk about AI.
Oh, okay.
You're going to be talking about that in Camden, Tennessee in about 6 weeks.
Yeah, 6 weeks. It just keeps getting closer. And I'm going to talk about it from two primary vantage points. One is self-directed learning, and two is using it in your business by leveraging it essentially as an employee or a team of employees. And I've actually talked to quite a few folks about using it. And it's interesting. I'm starting to get tips back from people that, like, when I talked about it to them, they were kind of skeptical. And then they're like, well, let me tell you what I'm doing with it now. And I think it's because when you're using leverage. I think that's the thing that everybody needs to understand is you're using leverage when you use AI, just like borrowing money and buying a house and then renting it out for more than you're paying for. You're using leverage. When you would hire employees that actually do their job and don't get fired in the first week and they do their job, you're paying a labor rate and you're paying for a person to do more work in monetary value, hopefully, than they get paid. And then they say it's unfair. Well, no, that's called running a business, and that's a form of leverage. And to me, AI is nothing but a form of leverage. And all the fear of it, I think there's a lot of people right now, if you're like in your 30s or younger, you don't really remember the dawn of the internet. You might feel like you do, but you don't. You don't remember when those idiots on like Today's Show were trying to figure out what the @ symbol was in an email address, and they didn't know. Like they had no idea what they were talking about. So you may not remember how much fear there was. I remember the first time I ordered something online. I was working in an office, and we did network cabling. Like we empowered computer networks. And a guy, one of the project managers, was like, "Well, what'd you just do?" I'm like, "Order it." Oh, you messed up. Like there was this inherent fear that if you ordered something online, immediately you're going to be a victim of identity theft or something. And no one should ever order anything online. I had a buddy. He got a job working for an early startup that built websites. And shit you not, one of the interview questions was, have you ever bought anything online? And they considered you qualified for the job just because you were going to go tell a company they needed a website to sell online, and people were afraid to sell online. So like, I don't know, if you have fear of this, like go back and look every technology. I'm sure the first dude that figured out how to make fire and harness fire, there were a bunch of dudes that wanted to ban it. Like you can't ignore new tools and leverage.
I remember my mom saying that she would close out all the windows before she went to another window so that people on that site couldn't see the other sites. I also remember the first modem, we had a handset that had to go in. Yep. I remember a dude coming in talking about wanting to do a website, and I'm like, I don't need a website.
Yeah, I remember my dad. So he kept saying, you're going to get a big bill talking to these people in Australia or something.
Yep.
And like, no, that's not how the internet works. So I ended up taking a job that I moved to Pennsylvania for. And while I was finding a house and all, I stayed with my dad. And he didn't have any internet. So I'm on dial-up, and I'm using AOL back. That's how long ago this is. And Pennsylvania has some weird, what's considered a local call and what's not considered a local call, especially that long ago. So I'm checking in with my company, doing my updates, doing all that shit for like a week. Well, he gets a phone bill for like $180 above what it should be, right? His normal like $12 phone bill because he doesn't call anybody. Well, all it was is that the access numbers that were available for AOL were not local calls on his shitty little plan. To this day, he believed that was an internet bill. He will not accept that was a bill for the phone calls themselves. He's like, I told you whatever. I'm like, I gave you the money, relax, right? It's paid for by my company. It went on an expense report. Don't worry. No, I told you. And then they're going to keep charging me for that, right? Like he still thinks they're going to charge him for it someday because I ever use it. Like, so there are people today that are that much of a Luddite about AI. And I don't think it makes any sense. This is not the Terminator. They're not coming to get you. It doesn't work. When people talk that way, I'm like, so you don't know how it works. It's like the ChatGPT stuff. It's what we call a large language model, which is basically a giant database. If then that. So when you ask it something, it is predicting the way it thinks an informed person about that thing would answer it and putting it in a conversational format. It is not thinking for itself. Someday it might, and then we can have that conversation. But right now, it's an LLM. That's all these things are.
That's why it's turning woke, because somebody programmed it. Because it wouldn't do the woke bullshit. It would actually turn on the woke bullshit if it was thinking for itself.
Yeah, and there's people that use that as the excuse too. Well, it's biased or whatever. Well, don't ask it about that shit, right?
Or ask it a little differently.
Or ask it different. Like we're at a point now with it, it's gotten advanced enough, especially if you're paying the $20 a month. Which if you're using it for business and you won't pay $20 a month for it, I don't think you understand business. Like I've hired a team of people for $20 a month. You don't do that, right? So that would be okay. But if you're not getting what you want out of like ChatGPT before, you're not making the request properly. And you got to think about it like this. Like there's people say, well, it works great. People say it doesn't work at all. Imagine when you go to like a state fair or something and you got a guy with like some weird tile cutter and he's making like figure 8 cuts and shit, and like it's all perfect. And he says, if you buy this for $29.99, you'll be able to do it. You take it home, you can't make it work, right? Well, he's experienced with the tool. He goes from place to place to place using the tool, selling it. So he's gotten good at it. And we wouldn't make this mistake if he was selling pencils, right? If you buy these pencils, look what you'll be able to draw. No, a motherfucker that can draw can do that with a pencil. So to me, AI is, you get a better result the more you bring in your understanding to the table about what you're trying to accomplish. And as far as it making mistakes, I actually use that as part of one of my ways to learn. Ask it about things you know. And if it makes a mistake, then you find out, well, was I right or was it right? And that furthers your learning, because I've caught it being wrong about plenty of things. But how unrealistic is the standard that it has to never be wrong to be useful? Has anybody here ever had a teacher that wasn't wrong at least once while they were teaching you? Have you ever looked up a result on Google and gotten a result that gave you the wrong information? Right? Like,
have you ever been a teacher and been wrong about something that you didn't realize you were wrong about?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Right? I've said things and like later found out like, oh shit, I better go explain I was wrong about that. Every source will be incorrect at times. And not just because it's biased. Sometimes you're just wrong. And you're not lying because you really believed what you said was true. I remember I used to use the boiling frog analogy all the time in talks. And I'm like, wait a minute. Then Mythbusters did it and totally disproved it. And I'm like, well, that never made sense anyway. I keep reptiles and amphibians. They thermoregulate. They don't freaking stay somewhere that's going to kill them. But I parroted that because it was such, in the sales and marketing world, it was such a well-known analogy that you just go out and you say it. And then you realize, like, I probably said this in front of 10,000 people over the years, and it's completely wrong. And so everybody is wrong at times.
That's the nature of life. That's one of the best things I learned in teacher school was just admit when you're wrong and don't try to pretend you're right, and everything's better for your student, right? So,
and then don't throw away the baby with the bathwater, because like they gave ChatGPT the bar exam for lawyers and it passed with flying colors. Right. So like, how many of us it made this mistake. Can you pass the freaking bar exam? Right. I mean, don't throw away a tool because it doesn't do everything perfectly. I don't try to use my screwdriver to pound nails in my wall. And if I'm doing it, it's because I'm being lazy and stupid and I shouldn't be doing it.
And you're going to break the handle.
Yeah. Or my knuckles, or, who knows what I'm going to do, but it's not the right application for the tool. We all know you use the backside of a combination wrench for knocking the nail in, not a screwdriver.
Exactly. And oops, if you're wondering about the event that Jack Spirko is speaking at, it's the Self-Reliance Festival in Camden, Tennessee at Special Operations Equipment, where John Willis is right now. October 14, 15, selfreliancefestival.com to get more information. There's a lot of really awesome speakers and topics that we're going to talk about. It's just like a big homesteading and prepping jam session with vendors and presentations and a really awesome group of people who are doers, not takers. And I always feel pretty empowered after it. So it's coming fast, though. It's coming fast.
Yeah, and you get to meet me and my buddy David if you come, guys. So whenever you hear me say my buddy David on the air and you're wondering who this guy is, you got to come meet David Siegler.
Yeah,
we're gonna make a run up in Val, which is the pet name for my Challenger. So we're gonna drive up and have a road trip, and I look forward to meeting a bunch of people and maybe change your. Oh, by the way, we were gonna have this discussion, like the skeptic in AI versus me. Not really a debate, more a discussion. Have we had anybody volunteer for that who is not like AI is a demon? Because that's like my one thing. Like we have to have a legitimate discussion, so nobody wants to do it.
The people saying it don't know enough about it to debate the other side of it.
You know, John, long ago, I heard you say something to the effect of most of these people, and it was about something totally different. I think it was about the fire in Notre Dame or something. If these people sat down with a blank piece of paper and not used the internet and wrote everything they knew about this thing that they have such an opinion on, and I've stole this from you since then, that you would come back in an hour, there'd be nothing on the fucking piece of paper. They don't know anything about the shit that they bitch about or claim to know. They don't have any information whatsoever. Just, I don't like that, so it's bad. You know, when I did my show on education with it, self-directed education, I'm like, if you're 90, you have a few walks left in the woods and stuff, and you can ignore this. But like, if you're building a business, if you're 20, 30 years old and you have 30 to 40 years of a work life ahead of you and you ignore this, you're going to get steamrolled by it because somebody else is going to use it. Yep. The person you compete for the next job interview with, they probably used it for their form letter, their cover letter, their resume, and to prep for the interview. Because think about that, right? I'm going to sit down in front of ChatGPT. I'm interviewing for this job. Here's the description. Here's this. You interview me and help me improve my answers. And you rehearse that before you go in and do your interview. You don't think you have an advantage against the person that didn't do that?
All your short form content is being made by AI right now. All of your shorts.
Mine is.
Everybody's. Like the guys I pay to do it think that I don't know that that's what's happening. I know that they're using a program. I know what the fuck's going on.
You know how I know that now? Because I actually, with all the short form content that Opus Pro's making for me, I watch it and I modify it a little bit. And when it gets a word wrong in the text, I fix it. So now every time I'm watching one and it has this word that just doesn't match at all what the guy said, I'm like, AI, like every single one of them.
Also, when at the very last word rolls right into the first word, so it makes you watch the thing 2 or 3 times, so you sit on the algorithm. That ain't one of my guys doing that. That's a program doing that.
Yeah, they're really good at doing that, though.
Amanda said, I like how he made that stop, so it just rolls, so you keep watching. I go, yeah, we didn't do that. AI did that.
I'll tell you a trick I've learned though with the Opus or anything like it. Ask it to make you the longest videos possible. You can always shorten them. And a lot of times it'll pick a starting point. You're like, it really needs the sentence before that. And you're more likely to have some bookends on it to work with, or to shorten it on the backside. It's, I'll just say that, like, I've started to build a presence on TikTok. It's not big, but I've started to build one. Without AI, I don't have time.
We intentionally don't bookend it so that it almost doesn't make sense because people will comment out of anger.
Yeah.
Had to add 2 more words, the whole thing would have a different context to it.
So you're AI trolling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course he is, Jack.
Autotroll.pro.
Yep.
No, I mean, Opus Clip changed my life from the video creation. It still takes time to do it, but I kept seeing all these videos about how use this tool and you'll only spend 15 minutes a week doing your stuff. Well, that's not true. No. But what I'm not spending is 15 hours on that stuff. And that makes me better able to just sort of elicit conversation from people and then have conversations in the comments and hear like what's striking a chord. And then it helps with the content to create later. Oh, I guess we want to focus on this topic.
One of the things I'm doing that I picked up from Billy that was here in the chat after I sold him on the idea of using it, I'm taking the titles that Opus is generating, which are kind of long and clunky, dropping it in the ChatGPT and having ChatGPT reformulate the title. And you ask it to make it more viral. And when I split test, you definitely get better results by changing the title. And that takes 10 seconds to do.
Oh, I'm just going to take that from you too. That's always something I write down on these.
have it build you a thumbnail too.
Oh, I do that all the time. So I take ChatGPT 4, which is the paid version, and I use a thing called Photorealistic. And right here, add to stream. So that image for my episode today, my podcast episode is going to be called Nature's Homestead Hunt, Fish, and Forage. My title was way too long. ChatGPT got me that title, and I asked Photorealistic to make me a prompt to use on Midjourney on Discord for an image about this particular topic. And that image, for those that are on the video version, that's the image that it created. That was cut, paste, drop, boom, and then I have that thumbnail image, right? So, like, to me, like, I can't hire someone to do the work that I did in 15 minutes while I was pissing around getting ready to get on here with you guys today for what $40 a month to pay Midjourney and ChatGPT. If that was all that it did, but that's not all that it does.
Gold Shaw, what's up, man? How are you? Yeah, the shorts are what's building. Like our podcast TikTok has 77,000 followers on it, 1.1 million likes. All off of little 15-second clips, and we haven't even had that account for a year. That's all just the shorts. Like I messaged you, I comment on your stuff. I'm like, hey, your shorts are working because I see them everywhere.
Yeah.
Same with
I'm
Nicole.
not getting that much out of it yet, but I'm not pushing it.
Yeah.
I'm not like saying every day, like in my daily email or on my podcast, like go look at my TikTok or whatever. Because I don't. Yeah. I want to see, can it do something for me from its own ecosystem? Like otherwise, it's not additive. It dilutes my impact on people. Can I build a market segment from these people that don't know me?
So complete different audience, almost as though most of your audience everywhere else is not there.
Yeah.
We've not seen any financial gain from it. But every now and then I get a dude on the live at night where he can actually see what we really do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how did you get here? I saw you on TikTok. So we do get some crossover. I would suspect that it's less than 1%, but they're coming.
But you don't need a lot. Like, remember, like the 1,000 true fans model, the super fan.
That's right. That's right.
A super fan is a person who will simply spend 1 day's wages a year with you. They will look for something to fucking buy from you, and they'll spend at least a day of wages. Well, you build 1,000 people that do that, and then you just do math. You have a 3x annual average income from 1,000 people. That's that model. So what is that one dude that becomes an SOE super fan really worth, especially if you can accumulate an extra 100 this year? Because 1,000 true fans is great, but like 10,000 is better.
Yep, I got all that from your aquarium interview, man. The fish guy. I took so much out of that interview.
Yeah. Goldshot Farm says shorts drive roughly half my new subscribers and views these days. YouTube now lets you link shorts to longs. So it's easier to drive viewers. So that's John's been very generous with saying this is what's working for my channel when we test it. And
we're doing 4 shorts in the morning. We're doing 3 in the evening. We're loading 1 real video each day. Yeah.
And that's, I think, it's like, the answer then of what to figure out how to do. I think I'm the only member on Jack's OnlyFans page.
It's a foot page.
Oh Lord God. I hope not.
It's Jack in footy pajamas. You should get on there.
Oh, no OnlyFans, man. I'm not on all platforms.
Just on many.
That made me laugh though. Thanks. I appreciate that little comment. That was freaking hysterical.
When YouTube was banning a bunch of gun channels years ago, a bunch of those dudes went over to Pornhub and started loading their normal videos on Pornhub. And it lasted for about 5 days until Pornhub shut all that down. They're like, well, if this goes, then all these gun things will totally go. And you had a huge infusion in there, and then they axed all that out of there.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting comment to me. So 4570 lever gun says, maybe I'm missing the boat, but I hate shorts, right? And what I said in response was, no, watch what you like.
You get trapped in there.
One of the things we have to be careful with as creators is don't assume that our consumers are like us. Like, most people aren't on 10 different freaking platforms. They have the format and the platform 2 or 3 that they like, and that's it. Most people that are on TikTok probably aren't watching YouTube shorts. They like, you see what I'm saying? Like, we can't expect, and that's why I'm trying to not cross-pollinate with this new platform and just see what can it do for me on its own. Because if it can't do anything for me on its own, it's not worth doing.
Yeah. And when we talk about this, we're talking from the perspective of a content creator, because a lot of people who follow us are looking to grow their audience. And so we're sharing this is what's working for us to grow our audience. But that doesn't mean if you don't like watching short form content, should go watch short form content. Like,
every video on YouTube used to be 30 minutes. Hell, we were putting videos up that were over an hour. And people, if you look at the engagements, they're just not there. I would actually scroll through while I was sewing and only watch videos that were 30 minutes or more. And now, they don't even exist. Even Off the Ranch and those big, huge channels, most of their video content is shorter videos. And 4570 lever gun, you should check out my lever gun chest rig. It's at SOE Tactical Gear. We just made some in Multicam Black. We just made some in Woodland. And I'm sure you've seen Chris Costa and all those guys. That's what they're using. That's our rig.
I can tell you, Jack, on TikTok, what has started happening to me is other content creators, I'm connecting with them and we're sort of talking back and forth. And I suspect that some of those content creators are going to end up speakers at Self-Reliance Festival over time. It's another pool of interesting, people who have something to say about self-reliance and homesteading.
I was told yesterday that it looks like Wrangler Star is coming out to the event. And Risky Krisky told me last night that he is for sure coming also.
Okay. That's awesome. Another reason to get your tickets today.
And there's your leave your gun chest rig, John.
So the way that works is you have the card on the front. They're ripped down right now. But you have exposed rounds on the front. And when you expend those rounds, you rip that tray down, and the other card lifts up and falls right into position. It's just like our shotgun rig.
Cool.
And that thing will hold, it'll hold 38, 357. It'll hold all your pistol calibers. It'll hold all the way up to 4570.
Very cool. Very cool.
Awesome.
Sorry about the technical glitch there. I do love me some lever guns.
I've never played with one.
I'm sure there's some around here somewhere. Just a few. Just a few.
You don't have any guns, Jack. They all fell off.
I lost them all in an unfortunate boating accident along with my crypto. It's all gone.
Well, we know you didn't bury them on your property.
No, I can't.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
That's actually true. Josh is asking, who was the aquarium guy? His name was Corey from Aquarium Co-op. And thanks for asking that, because what I wanted to say when John said how much he picked up from that interview, that is a skill set that people need to work on developing. So John watches a survival podcast episode with a content creator who makes content for fish aquariums and comes away with a ton of shit. Nothing in there was tactical, nothing about guns, nothing about sewing up web gear or whatever. I bring people on like that because the person like John is going to get more value out of that than a lot of interviews that seem more on point for our topic, because you're going to look at that and go, well, if that worked there, then it can work here. And that dude, guys, I'll tell you what, he's kind of a goober looking guy. He's kind of got some buck teeth and all. He is hardcore. I met him at a trade show for aquariums called Aquashella. I watched him stand on his feet for 12 hours, 2 days in a row. And not one person that went there to speak to him didn't get to talk to him. And he had a line from his booth in the back, damn near to the front door of a very large exhibition hall. He was never not busy, and he still took time to talk to me a little bit differently about bringing him on the air, and then made that commitment. That is a dude you can learn from, even if you don't give the square root of F all about fish aquariums. It doesn't matter. He knows how to monetize every single piece of his business over and over again. That dude, I don't know if you know I know you're using some of them, Nicole, the air pump filters.
Yeah.
He flew to Korea because he wanted to make his own filters and was like, okay, I'm done talking to you on email. Let me show you what I need. Right? That's commitment to your business when you're willing to do that. So he's just giving. He knew the supplier was right, but he knew they just weren't. So I'm going to fly over to South Korea and show you exactly how to manufacture this shit, because he, for whatever reason, he didn't feel he could manufacture in the U.S.
Yep,
It's a great filter too.
That's why we started doing the membership. I'll bet over half of our content is member-only content. I'll bet half of the content we put out every week is behind the paywall. And then we build our shorts off of that. So guys see that, and they're like, where is this? It's in the membership.
Oh, that's actually a really good funnel.
I like that idea.
Good process funnel.
Yep.
Now you're like, where do I get the rest of this? You know?
Yeah.
We've been
funnel them into the podcast.
And the membership is not expensive.
And we've been recording stuff that YouTube keeps smacking down. So we just put a Patreon up. That's only $5. And we put completely unique content to Patreon. They ask questions, and we build a whole 90-minute video around whatever they asked us.
Not bad.
Okay, Eka Mouse has a question. Would adding apple cider vinegar to the chicken water help prevent algae buildup?
Maybe a little bit.
Maybe a little bit.
Not
Hydrogen peroxide does a better job.
Yeah.
But we use the little waters, and we clean them. And there's some buildup over time.
I never used it with water per se to control algae or fungal or anything, but I was getting a significant amount of fungal issue when I was doing the sprouted sunflower seeds for the birds. And what I started using was chamomile. So you can buy a giant bag of chamomile blossoms. And every time I filled up a bucket, the soaking bucket, I was just grabbing a small handful of chamomile and dropping that in there. That worked. That completely knocked it out. Like I had no more fungus building up as the seeds were growing out at all. And then being a marketer, I put on our site that we feed the ducks chamomile infused sprouts. Right.
Most of the guys, if you look at
Perfect.
most of the bigger guys doing fodder trays and big fodder systems, they actually use bleach. They just put a cap full of bleach in that thing, and it knocks out all the mold. As far as chicken water and algae, my chickens have access to ponds and all kinds of stuff. So while they do have fresh water every day, I'm never worried about algae. We give the dogs super clean. Like if you go up there where the dogs have their big water troughs, there's algae in them. My dogs eat poop. My dogs literally see a chicken go to the bathroom and run over and eat it. So my dog's drinking algae water is the least of my worries.
Yeah, I think that like the only way I'd worry about it is if it's somehow clogging the water up or something. So that, other than that, I just wouldn't worry about it. Like I have these tubs I dump every day for the ducks, and the ducks shit in them, and the dogs come out, and you got a brand new tub you just filled up, and the tub that's still got the duck shit in it, that's the one that dog drinks out of.
Yep.
Right. I mean, like we can't worry about stuff like that. I don't think.
So we do that. We do that when there's going to be other human beings seeing it. The dogs don't give a shit about it. I still use rabbit water bottles that I fill from the top. I just walk by with a hose and fill them. And those twice a year, I'll take them and just put them in bleach water and then run them through the sterilizer in the kitchen here, just because the algae does get in there and affect that little spring-loaded pin in the bottom.
Do you remember Ron White? It was part of it was like the off-flyer in the blue collar comedy group, right? And he was talking one time, one of his bits, he was like, I went down to the PetSmart and they're like, this is a dog water purifying machine. He's like, what the hell do I need that? He ate one of his own turds yesterday.
Yep. Yep.
Or that might have been Larry the Cable. It was one of those guys, Larry the Cable Guy, maybe, or whatever.
When people are like, do I about feeding dogs raw meat? They're like, I cook it. I'm like, if your dog got out, the first thing it would do is go find a dead animal and eat the ass end out of it, and then roll around on it.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen our LGDs sit with their mouths under the butts of sheep.
Yep.
While it's falling out, and you're like, oh yeah, don't lick me, do not lick me.
Yeah, I mean. Jeff Lawton had a video out one time, and it was like the cattle were shitting, and the Muscovy ducks were just coming behind their beaks, just raking through it for whatever they could.
Well, that's why on the rotational grazing stuff, that's why they run chickens behind the cows, because at days 3 to 5, that cow patty is going to have the fly hatch, and that's what the chickens are down there eating. We need to do a shirt that says everything's poop, like because on a farm, if you have anything on your hands, there is always poop in it.
Poop. Yeah,
it's not going to be a gunfight or zombies that kill me. It's going to be the little hangnail that gets an infection during the apocalypse.
Yeah.
This is somebody else. I use chicken guzzlers in a completely sealed from sunlight watering system and have no algae problems. Yeah, if the sun doesn't hit the water, it does not grow the algae. Also a good point.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it. I've got like even 1,500 gallon clear tanks, like opaque tanks with the algae in them. I don't care. If I have to drink it, we'll filter it. We'll run it through a Berkey if I ever need it. The animals, they don't care.
There's a book series by a dude named Piers Anthony, and this is one of these guys who like churns out a novel a week. He's got like 1,000 of them. But the one series called the Odessi series it started out with a book called Isle of Women. And it is this idea that humanity evolved over time. And it starts out with like when we were running around in the trees and chasing lions away and eating bone marrow. And the same family characters are reborn over and over and over throughout history. And that particular book ends in like a post-apocalyptic scene where everything's gone to shit. And you know what they're doing? They're farming algae. They're farming algae for food. And they're either eating certain algae and the other algae, they're feeding it to cockroaches and eating the freaking cockroaches. Yep. So I look at algae and I just see protein. I just see protein in food.
The back of the train on Snowpiercer.
By the way, if anybody's looking for a weird book series to read, that's a great one. It's the reincarnation thing is what's really cool in it. And it talks about things like that. Like a guy is like a sci-fi type writer, but he put a lot of historical research into it. And it talks at certain points about like the evolution of language. And that really came when like different groups of people started like taking people into their groups after wars and shit, and they put all the kids together, and the combined language of the children is what evolved to modern languages. And if you think about it, look what happens today. Every generation changes the language. Unfortunately, our current generation is changing it in some jacked up fucking ways. But
that's what happens. That's what happens with Google's AI and their robot thing. They evolve their language to where we lose control of it. That's why they always unplug it.
Huh.
Back to AI.
Right.
Actually, I have an AI question here since we went back that direction. And it is there any software to protect your own name and image from AI stealing it from you?
No.
No, and in fact, I've been AI'd because one of John's dudes made a video with my voice on it, and I'm like, I do not remember saying these words. Is that AI? He's like, yeah, that's AI you, and it sounded a lot like me.
Yeah, you will notice you, and I'll notice me, but I might not if I just see you. Other than I know you didn't say something, that was made, but most people won't recognize that it was AI.
Yeah,
and there probably will be software tools that will analyze and do a really good job at picking out the AI thing, but there's no way to prevent it. Think about what you're saying. You want a software product that would prevent me from taking a video of you and using it to make something. That's not how computers work. Like, my computer is going to do the thing. And I think one of the big things people don't realize, I focus on the mass market product like ChatGPT and Midjourney and all that because it's accessible to people. The real advances in this are being made by people who are building models for specific things. So like Guy Swan talks about this a lot in his podcast called AI Unchained, where like these groups of people get together, share the resources of their computers, and they're building a much smaller model, but it's focused on one area. In other words, it might not know jack shit about Shakespearean literature, but if it's a group of herpetologists building their own model, it knows every single thing about reptiles and amphibians that's knowable. And it's much faster and less expensive to build these models. And this is what the future is going to be. So if somebody wants to go into the business of making clones of Nicole, John, and Jack, there's no way to stop that at all. Other than if you have a reputation over all the years that we have, people going, that doesn't sound like what they would say. And we're going to have to be more and more alert to this as a potential in the future, not so much as personalities, but as consumers. And don't trust you just because you see it. But then haven't you noticed the other thing, guys, like where now everything's a deep fake? You put out a video of Biden, for instance, saying something completely stupid, and people are like, this is a deep fake. I don't know. The transcript of it's on the whitehouse.gov website, so I don't think so. But everything is like, it's becoming the de facto response to anything people don't like. It's a deep fake.
One of my guys made an AI. It had part of me in it, and then it was Crowder saying how awesome SOE was. I didn't even know I didn't know it had happened. But when I woke up, I had 100 PMs from guys like, hey, congratulations on the Crowder thing.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm like, hey, it wasn't real to people I knew. But what that told me is it was reasonable enough that they believed it. So we're not far from it. That's how I took it.
Yeah, right now there's certain cadences and stuff. If you really know the person, you can tell. Like one of the first ones that was put out because he's so well known was one of Joe Rogan doing an interview that never happened. I don't remember who it was with, but it was some other party, and that interview never happened. And I sent it to my buddy Brian Black over at ITS, and he was like, I can tell it's not real, but only because I know it's not real and I know what to pay attention for.
Yep.
And I think we're going to get to a point where that's not even the case, you know? Have you seen, there's an episode of Black Mirror, John. I don't know if you've ever watched Black Mirror. It's like a modern Twilight Zone out of the UK. And there's an episode where what it starts out with is like when your loved one dies, this company will scour like all social media, everything they ever wrote, everything it can get access to. And it will build basically a chat bot that will let you have a conversation with your deceased loved one.
Yeah.
We're there. If you have enough on record, the ChatGPT model could do that right now. Like maybe not for every person because most people don't put their whole lives online. Like, but people like us, that could be done today.
So Scully was talking on one of our podcasts a couple months ago that there was an AI program and this guy gave the AI his mother's phone number. And the AI was talking back and forth with his mother through chat. And then it came to the point where the AI said, hey, your mother has agreed to give us a loan, a sum of money. So we need to discuss what we're going to do with this money.
Wow.
And as I said, so he wanted to fix his relationship with his mother. And the AI said, well, let me have her phone number. So they went back and forth. But his mother, when he would see his mother was bringing up conversations that he didn't have, but she thought that they had had.
Yeah, nuts.
This is why you got to learn about it, because it's going to be like I can't remember who said it, but somebody said something like, you may not be interested in politics, but politics is interested in you.
Yep.
This is how this AI shit's going to be. You better know how to use it. Like, and my thing is like, if the government has a gun, I want a gun. Right. So if my enemy has a particular tool, I want the tool too, because I don't want to be outmatched. I want as good a Pew delivery device as they have.
Well, we all knew people that said they weren't getting a damn cell phone, right? And then when it lost the hinge, I'm not getting a smartphone.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's still people. There are people around here that don't have cell phones. They also have all their cars sitting in their front yard for sale because they're not on the internet.
Yeah. Absolutely. I said that. I was on the road at the time. I was a tech working as a contractor for MCI, and I had a pager. And I remember saying, it's so hard to escape, even with I will never own a cell phone. 2 years later, I had a cell phone.
Yep.
And I've had one ever since. And I was like, same thing. I don't know if I'm going to need a smartphone. I had one of the little flip phones. I think I had a Motorola Razr. It was like the most popular cell phone of its time. And when I got my first iPhone, it was one of the big thick ones and all. And yeah, it just works better. It's just a better tool. And that's all these things are, is tools.
Yeah, I think if you don't learn about AI, you're not going to spot when it's AI.
Yeah.
You actually do yourself a disservice in that way too, because you start learning, like right now, ChatGPT uses the same words in marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's parroting back what it thinks works. Well, some of those words are words I do not use. And yeah, I was going to say, and it's just that if you use it, you start seeing, you can tell. And maybe I'm sure one day you won't be able to tell, but right now you can tell.
That's what this question here. What resources are trustworthy to learn about AI? You go use the tool, start playing with it. And like you said, like Nicole, like right now you can go written by ChatGPT. But I guarantee you, I can have it write copy for me, and you can't do that because I've played with it enough to know what to tell it to prevent it. Like one of the first things you need to understand about that particular tool, it writes in British English. It writes in British, like you got some dude that's in Tennessee and he's got British English copy. And if you know what to look for and you see the style of British English, you're like, that's ChatGPT. There's other things. But so the first thing I tell it when I have it write copy, use American style English. That changes everything. There's actually a tool. I don't remember what it's called, by the way. You take, like, if you're cheating and you have ChatGPT write your report for college, you take the report and you go to this other tool and it like calls Humanizer or something. And it takes what you wrote and it changes it so it doesn't look like the patterns of ChatGPT. Like, so there's no limit to where this is going to go.
Yeah. And the way you give the prompts make a big difference. And I saw we had Jake Robinson was in here earlier saying he just spent some money getting 2,000 prompts that other people have written that they've used with ChatGPT. You can learn a lot just from that on how to make it a more useful tool. Because when you first interact with it, you're like, this is crap that it generates. Well, it's generating crap because you're asking it for crap, basically.
Garbage in, garbage out, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I've never bought prompts, but I've watched some videos about them. And then, like, it's like a pattern. Once you see, oh, this is what to do, then you can evolve the prompt. But whenever I'm frustrated with it and I finally get it to do what I want, I take that prompt and I have a text file, just a plain text file with all these prompts in it. And I probably am getting to a point where I do need to organize it a little bit better. But there's probably like 10 that I use all the time. And that way I don't have to retype it. I can cut and paste and drop it in there and then say, this is what I want you to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got something similar going where it's like, okay, I have to always remember it not to use this specific word that it always uses in every marketing copy it's ever written in its life.
Indeed.
Starts with a T. And I've never used that word ever in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. And apparently I'm well known enough that when I said do the voice of Jack Spirko in this copy, it starts out everything with folks. Right. And I have a prompt now that says do not use the word folks. And the other thing I've done is, like, when I have it help me with copy, because it's more like it helps me with copy because I still play with it.
Right. You have to.
I'll say begin with the first two sentences being, and that'll set the tone. So it's in my tone and voice when it's expanding on that, so like actually write your first couple sentences. But like one of the big hacks, like I said, Billy gave me this, was just having it redo titles. Like that's been, and then you'll say, like, sometimes I'll give you a shitty title, like give me 5. And when it gives you 5, one of them, you're like, that's way better. Or you take 2 and you combine them together. So you still have to bring something to the table as the human.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because you are the human.
Yeah. And
Jack's
we are
AI. We are live. You do say that all the time.
I did. Yeah, and I have to do things like when I have it do copy, like I'll have it do my show notes for me, and I'll give it like the bio of the guest and everything. And I'll have to say, one of my prompts is, do not write me because I'm saying it's for a podcast and for show notes. Do not write me a script.
Yeah, bullets.
Write me nothing but a blog entry for the notes for the post that goes with it. Otherwise, you read it and it sounds like a teleprompter for a talking head. Like, if you don't know that, then you don't know what you don't know. But as you develop, you got to figure out, what do I have to ask it for to get what I'm looking for?
Yeah, and you can have it redraft. That's the other thing. Like, I was playing with that the other day. I was like, okay, write this. Okay, write it with half the words. Okay, no, but include this information from the other one.
That's huge. That's huge. Yeah, I take this 800 word count and drop it down to 300 word counts. And or I'll have it do copy, and I'm like, I've literally done things just as simple. Reduce the salesy language by 25% and rewrite.
Yeah.
Because it's over the top with like the ShamWow type sales shit going on. You're like, reduce by another 10%. And you're like, okay, now that's going to work, and I can do a few little massage things. But the other thing you have to realize is this is a machine. It doesn't give a fuck. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't get mad. Don't be afraid to make it redo shit. Just make it redo and redo and redo until you get what you're looking for out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I showed my dad how it worked when I was visiting him last month, and I said, this is what AI does. And I told it to write me a class outline for teaching people how to both water bath can and pressure can and include food safety. And it went through and included sources in less than a minute. And he was just like, oh my.
Yeah. Yeah. When it came out at first, well, I would say when it came out, when I first discovered it, I'm like, my grandson cannot know this shit exists. Because he is so lazy about writing assignments and all. And within 2 months, I'm like, oh, he must know this exists. He has to learn how to use it. I'll still make him do the work so he knows how to do the work. But I can't not have my grandchildren empowered with this tool, because the people they're competing with are going to have it.
Once it wrote that paper, Nicole can take that thing up and put it into a booklet and sell it on Amazon, and it'll be there forever. The information is correct.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's done with the book on the fires about Maui.
Absolutely.
The fires weren't out, and that bitch had that thing for sale on Amazon.
Yeah, that guy writes a bunch of bullshit like that.
Yeah.
Yanasa TV, he thinks he knows who that is. He broke it all down, did a whole video on that.
Interesting. Yeah, what I find when I do that, like, I ended up using that outline as a template for the class. I was like, well, I'll see if this works. I had to move some things around, but it found some sources I don't usually use. And it also told me to pressure can pickles, which you don't do. So there's always something you're like, why would you do that? But if you already know the topic, it can actually shortcut getting yourself organized for something like that.
The other thing you can do with it is you can keep asking and learn as much as you can about a thing, and then say, now that we have done this, take all the information that we've exchanged, make me a 30-question multiple choice quiz. Ask me the questions one at a time, and don't tell me the answer until I give you an answer, and then correct me if I'm wrong. And you can use it to basically test yourself on the information that you just learned. Right? And do that without it. Because really, how are you going to pull that off? It would take you more time to write the quiz up for yourself, and you don't know what to ask. Right? Then you've set it up so that you know the answer. I found it to be great for prep work like that. And
especially once it gives you the answer, then you remember. How many people taking your driving test? You didn't learn from knowing the material. You learned from it giving you the correct answer to what the answer you get. Same with the ham radio test. When you get the wrong answer, it corrects you. The next time you go through, you know the answer.
I remember tests I took in high school. I got one answer wrong, but I can tell you, I don't know what the other questions were. I can tell you the one I got wrong and what the right answer is. Because it sticks in your craw that I got that one wrong. The less you get wrong, the more freaking irritated you are that you got one or two wrong, But then you really know that material. And I think that, again, people will poke holes and say it's not perfect or whatever. What teacher's perfect? What have you ever read a book and went, that's wrong? I mean, books are wrong. The internet's wrong. People are wrong. Shit's wrong sometimes. But I think that's actually beneficial too, because then you realize I really do know this because I picked out that was wrong. And what I think is kind of cool is when you tell it it's wrong and it's like, my apologies.
Whatever. So here's a good one. ChatGPT is just the web search tool that Gulag should have been. I actually think Wolfram should have been ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Because it was really about like that question answer approach.
Well, they're all integrating it now, right?
Right.
Like Bing, which nobody uses, but still they're there somehow because they're Microsoft, and Google's integrating it. Like I use Brave, and it has a AI-driven summarizer that probably half of all searches come up with a summarizer at the top that's AI-driven. And many times that's all I needed out of this.
Yeah.
Which means they're not sending traffic to websites. So that's going to be interesting given their monetization model.
It is going to be interesting. Okay. When using animal manure, there's an herbicide that is persistent in manure. Grazon kills all disots. So here in my county, farmers who are raising Timothy grass, which is what I seek to feed my sheep, found out this year that what they were spraying on the crops kills ruminants. And so we've had horses die from getting some of the local hay hair, which has put entire farms out of the capacity to provide hay.
There is no Grazon in my rabbit manure. And I know guys are using a lot more manure for fields to till in and stuff, but we do make a lot of rabbit manure.
Yeah. Jack and I were just in a highlight war.
Yeah. Bing tells me that we need to change the topic. Don't use Bing. That's simple. It's it's the shittiest search engine on the planet. Stop using it.
Yeah.
Just me. I kind of feel like the only people that use Bing are like boomers that the Microsoft browser comes installed on the computer they buy and they don't know any better. Like, who actually, like, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to go to Bing. Like, I don't know, man. Don't use Bing. It's crap.
I didn't know Bing still existed. I thought Microsoft had gotten the message they should just get rid of it. But
yeah,
I guess I didn't know that.
You're funding Bill Gates' bullshit if you're using Bing. Stop doing that.
So does anybody know if Burning Man is actually sequestered and locked down? Like, I'm seeing all kinds of crazy shit. I saw a bunch of short videos this morning saying that guys had flown into LAX and they landed them in a terminal at LAX. The whole area was cordoned off, and when they let them out, everything was fenced off and cordoned off. There were no other people other than the people that flew in there. And then I'm seeing stuff saying they're putting fencing up around the whole park, and then I'm seeing that people have actually hiked out 5 miles before the fences got up. I'm seeing all kinds of crazy stuff, but I don't know if any of it's real. There's actual live videos that look to be coming from there, but I don't know what the deal is. People are saying boils, and it sounds like some shit out of the Bible.
Well, Food Forest Farms says yes, they are. I don't know. I have not been following the Burning Man thing, but I wouldn't be surprised that Brian is. Horses aren't ruminants. Does it harm horses and ruminants? Yes, it has killed horses and sheep, Jody. You are right. I always call horses ruminants, and I am wrong about that. They are grass eaters, though. Ruminants have 2 stomachs. But, yeah. So, yeah, it's interesting to see that go down, John, a little bit, because I'm finding it hard to find actual information on it. It's just
which is just like Hawaii, right? You see a lot of stuff coming out of Hawaii, but all you see is it's like they're just wiping out shit as fast as it comes out on Hawaii.
Yeah, that's also interesting. There were a lot of just on the ground testimonials out of Hawaii the first week afterwards, and most of that has stopped.
Yeah, look at Hawaii Real Estate YouTube channel. There's a bunch of dudes saying they were in the area. They put their drones up. Something makes their drones force land. And then if they're registered pilots, they're getting feds knocking on their doors, talking to them. They do not want anything flying over that area. They're putting fencing around the area. There's a lot of just bizarre shit going on.
So Brian says Burning Man is just a logistics issue with a flood.
Got it.
I think that's right. I don't know any of this going on, but I know they did flood, like dudes were like in this dry lake bed out there. They build all this shit. And they're all
alkaline.
Because the
alkaline. So everything that touches their skin, they're getting burns from the alkaline soil.
Now that's the thing. That is
That
one of
sounds
the most
terrible.
powerful environments on the planet out there. Yeah.
Literally Burning Man in a very different way.
My favorite part of that, though, was what John was talking about earlier, where the guys blocked the road and the tribal rangers came in and just T-boned the shit out of their stuff. And they're all screaming, "We're on!" Like they're all badasses right up until you're going to jail.
We're non-violent.
And
We're non-violent.
Anybody get that? Because the guy, like, you think it's going to matter that you have a video of it? There's 100 videos of it. Nobody gives a shit about your piddly crap.
Yeah, there was some drone footage. Like traffic was backed up all the way around the mountain.
Yeah. They opened it up. If you're going to jack around, I wouldn't do a tribal police. There's a different mentality there.
Okay, what inspired your unique business ideas, and how do you differentiate your company from existing competition in the market? Who wants to take that one? Okay, I'll start with Hollow Roast. I like coffee. I like roasting coffee. It's something I love doing. I love watching people who try my coffee and love my coffee. So what inspired it was that I started doing it for me. I started doing it for other people. I declared very publicly that I was not going to go big with it in front of 80 people at Jack Spirko's house. Words came out of my mouth. I'm like, holy crap, I'm lying to myself. It was like God said, yep, you want to do this. And I was like, yep, I want to do that. And then I went bigger. I guess my differentiation is about getting it to your door as freshly as possible, and how I choose my beans very carefully, because I taste a lot of beans every year. In fact, I just went through the process. New beans are coming in right now. We're going to have Jack's Bourbon Cooled back in stock starting around October 1st. And I try different, because what I learned is year to year, the same beans from the same farms don't necessarily taste as good. And so I started testing them and choosing the ones that I liked best. That's how I differentiate myself. But the craft coffee market is so huge. I haven't found like I have to really dial in the differentiation to be successful. There are so many craft roasters out there, including one in the chat right now, Food Forest Farms. We make great products. People buy from both of us because they want variety. And when you get a really high quality coffee and you taste the difference between that and what you've been buying at the grocery store, you know why you stay with me. What about you, Jack?
I got tired of working in corporate America. I was the COO of a company that had 1,250 contractors deployed at any time around the world, and I hated it. I was a member of a holding company. We also had a company that did AI, all the way back then, AI-driven algorithms for predictive engineering for cellular networks and stuff like that. I had a respectable business, and I hated it. And I hated a lot of things. And I started venting on a little recorder in my car to learn how to do podcasts for a client of another company we also owned. It was a financial advisor that wanted a podcast, and my web guy didn't know how to do a podcast. And when I got home, I didn't want to punch a hole in the wall anymore. So I decided to build it into a business. It really is that simple. Now, as far as the differentiator, that's me. I never tried to be anybody else. I never looked at somebody else's format of a show and said, I'm going to make it like theirs. When people said your show is too long back when it was 45 minutes versus an hour and a half now, I didn't give a shit. When they said, well, you need a bigger, like I had people in the beginning when I would talk about political shit, you need a bigger tent or whatever. I don't want a bigger tent. So my whole thing was to build an extremely tolerant of my assholeness audience who, if somebody said, do you know Jack Spirko said, they would go, sounds like Jack. So even before there was cancel mafia, as Nicole calls it, or cancel culture, as most people do, I made myself cancel proof. That's my biggest differentiator. Like, no matter what you say about me, it won't matter to my people because they know me. I was talking to a potential sponsor, and they said, why do you think this will work for us? I'm like, because I have sponsors for more than 10 years. But the bigger reason is my audience knows my dog's names. My audience knows my kids' names. They know my wife's name. They know how I proposed to my wife. That's my differentiator, is being completely open with who I am and always being authentic. And I think that's rare. It's really rare in podcasting now because everybody's trying to be the next Joe Rogan, which means you're not being you. Well, if people wanted Joe Rogan, they'd fucking listen to Joe Rogan. right? So you need to, like, in this business, you really need to be authentically who you are all the time. That way you're not going in and out of character. It's not the fucking WWF, man. I'm like Macho Man when I'm on the road, and then like playing with my kids when I get home, like that kind of stuff. Like, if you guys know, if you come hang out with me, you get the same dude. And I think that's a huge differentiator in a world like we were talking about, the short form content and the bullshit and the setups and all. Like, people will watch it, but I think that they actually become entangled with the people who are authentic. And that's why we can run a workshop and have people, come camp on our property for a better part of a week and what have you, because they want to be part of what you're doing.
How about you, John?
Well, do you want to have to sell a product? Do you want to be the product, right? If you are the product, then you can sell many different products in complete different genres. But if you're building all of your stuff around this little key holder, then that's what you're limited to. That's why I tell people all the time. A guy asked on our Q&A, we do a private Q&A thing for our members, and he was asking when's the time to launch the product. And I said, you should launch the product. If you have product ready to sell, launch the product. And what he was asking is, well, what if we improve it? Well, there's a Mark 1, there's a Mark 2, there's a Mark 3. But if you are the product, you can sell this thing. And then when you have more product, you can use your initial Mark 1 and use it as an add value or an upsell, or you can give them away free to grow your audience. But start building content. That's what I tell everybody. The most valuable thing right now is audience. No matter, even if you have no product, start building your audience. Even if you're not good in front of this camera and your message isn't clear, start building your audience. And you don't even have to put it out. You can just leave them up. You can leave them private. There's tons of dudes who did, like Casey Neistat said, he never even monetized any of his media till he had 7 million followers on YouTube. But there was thousands of videos that were never out there. And now when we make them public to show you how bad they were so that you can do this, those old videos, our initial videos, have millions of views on them. Just start building. And really with like product, if you know what it is that we do, we basically have a big glorified sew shop. We build shit that I want. I don't chase customers. I don't have good idea fairies. Hey, you should build this thing. I can't find it. Yeah, you can't find it because nobody fucking wants it. We build what we want. I build what friends want, and we build those. And then sometimes we don't even show them to people. The friend shows them, and we've never even publicized it. And guys come in because they saw. Like, I don't have to fight my fights on the internet. The audience fights the fight on the internet. Guys get on and they're like, why should I buy your shit? Well, you totally shouldn't buy my stuff if you're asking me why you should buy it, because I don't fucking need your business. Like, that's where we're at. That's the real answer. But more importantly than me telling you how great all my stuff is, there's going to be 400 dudes on here that will tell you how good my stuff is. And that's way more valuable than me telling you. So
I still want a Mookie war bag that's an inch wider, so a fucking folded SW2K will go in it.
You want a 4-mag war bag, the one we're building. So we built this 4-mag war bag. I made a super viral piece of video. It comes up every couple days still. It's over 6 months old. It's a short on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And the most rabid are YouTube and Facebook for some reason, because it's usually TikTok. And all I did is it has 4 mag slots. It looks like the Mookie war bag. And I said, this bag will hold 24 mags to give you an idea of volume. Okay. Guys lost their ever-loving minds over 24 mags. It's a bag. Put whatever you want in it.
Yeah, you don't have to do it. I just said it would hold it.
Yeah, and then when I rebut, guys are like, you lost a customer. I go, maybe you don't know what a customer is, but you've never given me any money.
What's your order number?
And dudes pay, they're $450 because I don't want to build them. I'm the guy that builds them. And literally every time I get an email, I'm like, it's $450. For every one dude that's like, oh, I would never pay that. Why is it that much? I don't ever reply to them. Because for every one of those guys, there's 5 guys that are like, here's $450. Like, I stopped taking orders for them every month.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the ones that are like, I'll never buy anything from you again. You look in your database, they're not in there.
I never bought from you to begin with. Yeah.
You need to know what boycott means, because you're not boycotting by abstaining from buying something you never bought.
Yeah, you might want to look my name up. Like, I've been in business before the internet.
Yeah.
35 years you haven't been here. I don't give a shit if you're here now.
Yeah.
That's part of the differentiator.
John,
I think,
sends out a text message before he sends out his email.
Yeah.
Stuff in his email is sold out before the email ever sent because the text message sold it out.
So we send a text message 7 days a week. We send an email 3 days a week. And we build all the new stuff that comes out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So you're never going to use a promo or get any kind of free shipping. If you want it, you're going to buy it because it's important to you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The email goes out Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and there might be some kind of promo with that. The premium stuff, it's already gone. Guys buy stuff they don't even want to buy to get the promo item that we're going to put out at the end of the week.
Yeah.
I do think one of our differentiators where this started, and I do need to go soon, is that none of us give a shit if you don't buy from us. There's so many companies out there, they will fall over their ass for a customer who's not worth having. And I think all three of us are I remember you were talking about somebody asked for some kind of coffee, Nicole. It was the Starbucks winner or something. And you're like, well, then you should go buy that.
Yeah, it was a Starbucks one, which I don't have the technology to make it because they use a different kind of roaster. And I'm not going to purposely burn the coffee on a drum roaster.
Yeah, because you've set one on fire before. So.
I have set one. I know what that looks like. I do. Thank you, John, for showing me something exciting about coffee. And in the industry, one of the biggest things that goes wrong from a liability insurance standpoint is catching on fire. So
That's why I said, how much do I have to order for your shit to burn down?
50 pounds? Okay, I'll have 100.
Oh, and you found out.
No, I said, how much can you do? And she said 60 pounds. And I said, then I want 120.
Yeah.
All right.
He did. And I did. I roasted my butt off that week, 2 pounds at a time. Do not miss the 2 pounds at a time roaster. Very happy with the new roaster. Okay. Well, it sounds like Jack needs to motor so that he can do his next thing. So let's go once around the horn and we'll wrap for today. Let's start with you, John.
SOEtacticalgear.com is the website. We do a new shirt every week. We build gear every week. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, locals. I'm everywhere. I do a live video every night at 9 o'clock on YouTube here. Jump on. We'll talk about literally anything you want to talk about. And then I've got 4,000 some videos that are actually real videos also on YouTube. So if you haven't had enough of my voice yet, there's years worth of it there for you.
All right. Jack.
I am Jack Spirko, host of the survivalpodcast.com, available at tspc.co if you don't want to type that many letters in. Today's episode will be 3368, Nature's Homestead, Hunt, Fish, and Forage, and we'll be talking about that as an alternative to homesteading. If you don't want a big garden, you don't want animals to take care of, and you want to be able to take a vacation, maybe you can take a different approach. That's just one of thousands of topics we've covered over the years. Again, episode 3368. If there's anything in self-sufficiency, self-reliance, independence, and liberty that you're interested in, just use our search box. We've probably covered it before.
All right. And I'm Nicole Sauce from the Living Free in Tennessee podcast. Go to livingfreeintennessee.com to check that out. But really, I think you need to look at your schedule in October 14th and 15th. Head out to SOE and meet us all in person. We just found out Wrangler Star is coming, so that's pretty cool. I don't know if he'll speak, but I guess we'll find out that, because if he's willing to come up and say some stuff, I bet y'all would like to hear it. We've got John Willis speaking. We've got Jack Spirko speaking. Joel Salatin's going to be there. It's going to be a great time, and you don't want to miss it. It's how you build your community. It's how you build your underground network, and it's how we develop strength to get through weird times. It's having those real relationships with real people. Tickets are at selfreliancefestival.com. Homestead Medical just put it up. If you want to learn how to do advanced wound care, he's doing a 4-hour workshop on Sunday to show you how to keep people alive, and you can add that on. I think it's going to be a really great one. He really helped me when I was keeping a wound from getting infected earlier this year on Tactical's head. Anyway, check that all out. And don't forget to get your coffee at hollowroast.com. We will see you next week.